This week on Silver Screen Queens, we cover the 1992 classic, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Blonde, bouncy Buffy is your typical high school cheerleader. Her goal is to marry Christian Slater and die, and nothing gets in her way when it's time to shop. But all that changes when a strange man informs her she's been chosen by fate to kill vampires. With the help of a romantic rebel, Buffy is soon spending school nights protecting LA from Lothos the Vampire King, his sidekick Lefty, and their determined gang of bloodsuckers. It's everything you expect from a teen queen in the valley. I love this shit.
Oh, so good.
All right, witches, strap in, because if you haven't put this together yet, this movie is about to get spoiled. So get ready.
I can tell when Blaine likes a movie more versus doesn't by the way she goes through the motions of talking about it. It's just
you can
amazing.
tell she's like raising her shoulders when she talks because she's so
God.
excited.
Okay.
Like
So
when
you know my every move.
Like when I was editing the last one, it was funny to hear how Blaine's like, I need to talk about this right now. Like, I need to expel from my mind what I am thinking about this film.
My name is Emily, and I went on a nice little hike today with my family because it was so nice, and we're trying to practice social distancing.
My name is Blaine. I beat the shit out of my husband at Uno today. It was amazing. I am drinking a very smooth, very dangerous 11% beer that I have like 4 cans of. It is called Neshaminy Creek's S'mores Stout.
Ooh, I want that. That sounds so good.
Is it
You
good?
said it's 11%?
It's so smooth. It is
I was
11%.
gonna say, does it feel
It's
dense?
so smooth. It's not. It's like it's really light, which is very dangerous, and it's smooth. So I had something prepared when I was talking about this beer. I was going to say it's smooth and dangerous, just like Stephanie.
Oh, that's
I like
the
it.
nicest thing ever. That's
I
like
like
when
that.
we talked about your butt because we love it so much.
We do.
Like literally, if I could have a pet animal that was actually an appendage of my friend's, it would be your butt. I'd walk it around on like a little leash and just roll your butt around, and it would be we'd play.
I would like hop on your butt to make you feel better about your butt.
It doesn't sound different than what we already do.
No, it doesn't. My name is Stephanie, and I am sitting in my basement drinking some Fireball. My husband went to Penn State, and he is obsessed with Penn State, so everything in the basement is Penn State themed. So needless to say, I don't need to touch myself when I come into the basement. I'm gonna leave that right there.
I don't even
want to talk about it anymore.
We don't need to unpack that.
I have a lot of really interesting fun facts about this movie.
Ooh, good.
I'm so excited.
Apparently, David Bowie, Mick Jagger, and Carrie Yules were set to make cameos as vampires, but they had a budget restraint, so this was not able to actually come to fruition.
I would love nothing more than to see fucking Mick Jagger as like a sassy British vampire, like who couldn't really talk around his teeth, but he made it work.
Yeah. Another star that made it in the movie, Seth Green, he actually does appear in the movie for 3 seconds.
Yep.
He is the short redhead vampire. They're outside the gym. Yeah, you can see his haircut. I thought that was really fun.
So fun fact about Blaine in this one. I love redheads, and that is why I love Emily. I have had the biggest crush on Seth Green since forever. Sweet Potato, It to start with, then in the Austin Powers movies.
Yes.
And he was in Rat Race. I don't know if you saw that movie. That was
good.
Rat
Race. Saw that one too.
Klaus Barbie Museum.
Oh my God, so funny.
Donald Sutherland is Merrick in this film. He has played this exact role probably 1,400 times. Yes. But Kiefer Sutherland, obviously that's his son, is the leader of the vampire gang in The Lost Boys. And I'm like,
yes,
I just love the parallel there of these two actors doing different things. But I'm like, would it not be so cool if they did a mashup, father against son?
Another fun fact about Donald Sutherland. He and Rutger Hauer were both in the remake of Salem's Lot in 2004 with Rob Lowe.
I love that one.
I love Rutger Hauer's Vampire King. He played Barlow in Salem's Lot, and he plays Lothos in this movie, and he can get it.
There was no soft orgies in this. That's kind of upsetting.
You always propose a soft orgy in a movie. You're like, we get this movie rolling. Soft orgy.
You know what this coronavirus grocery store needs? Soft orgy.
Soft orgy.
From a distance. I'm just imagining like the Air Bud dog hands, but they're dick fingers, and you just pull them from afar.
I love the Air Bud dog hands.
last fun fact, did you guys know that Ricki Lake was in this movie?
Yes.
She was the
God,
waitress in the scene where Buffy and Pike meet for the first time.
I was weirdly into Ricki Lake for a while.
I loved
I was
fucking
obsessed
Ricki
with her
Lake.
for no goddamn reason.
Just because this is the first moment they mention Hilary Swank, and I did not remember she was in this movie. Are we gonna have the is she hot or is she not?
Oh, of course
She is
she's hot. Yeah.
Is she sexy?
Yeah.
You think she's sexy?
Is she hot? Not
Would you do her?
Okay, that's true.
I'm in Kelly's camp on this one where she's like, obviously,
That's
she's
exactly
hotter
how
than
I
I
feel,
am. Right.
Oh my god.
So if you
because
don't
if
think
she's not
she's
hot, then I'm not hot.
we open in Europe in the Dark Ages, and there's like some princess thing because she has the pointy hat, and she's talking to Merrick. She's like, someone needs to protect us. They allude to them there being vampires, and Maverick's like, oh, I'll be the trainer, and there must be a slayer who will be able to like protect mankind. He raises the dagger that's like made out of wood, and it like smash cuts to Buffy raising her pom pom in the air.
That's
It's a
it.
very good transition.
So that dance scene, like, okay, so Buffy walked so Bring It On could run.
Yes. I have never loved a character in a film more than the coach of the basketball team.
Yeah.
Such a
He
feminist
says-
king.
He's a greasy looking dude, and he says, I am a person, I have a right to the ball. And he's like telling the players what to have, like the mantra. It's then followed up by the least impressive cheerleading I've ever seen.
Oh my god, it's
Oh, I love it.
awful.
Quickly transition to this credit that says Southern California, the light ages.
Light as in like Miller Light. Like
Yes.
Yes.
So we open to all the girls at the mall, 90s
But
speak.
they straight up make shit up.
She said,
like, these
excuse
were
me for
not
not
real
knowing
things."
about El Salvador. It's not like I'm ever going to Spain anyway.
Yes. And none of her friends like look at her at all weird. They're like, oh yeah,
Nope.
that makes sense.
it's also very Heathers. Like I just got
Yes.
serious Heather vibes.
Them talking about going to the movies, it
Oh my God.
truly reminds me of the limitations of being out. That
And
was all they
especially
could
in the
do.
90s, there was absolutely the fuck nothing to do.
Well, and they even
Um,
like had choices to list though. Like we lived in places that were like, do you want to go to the mall or do you want to go to the park?
They're walking in the mall. They're talking to each other. They go up in an elevator, and this is where we get our first look at Donald Sutherland, aka Merrick. And he looks like
So-
fucking Inspector Gadget.
Yes.
Not only does he look like Inspector Gadget, but like I am looking at all of this through like a 21st century lens, and I'm
Mhm.
just like, stranger danger. Like,
Yes.
this is also wrong. What is
Well-
happening? And everything Merrick does, I'm like 911,
no,
911. Right
The
now.
whole
He's
time I'm like,
literally-
baby, no.
Jerking off under his fucking raincoat
Yeah.
or whatever.
Ooh,
the-
trench
the-
coat. The entire movie, there is not one scene he is not wearing a hat and the trench coat. He never changes ever,
And
never
His,
ever.
his mustache even curls up on the ends like a villain.
Mhm.
Fucking Donald Sutherland.
Like,
wow.
All they do when they're at the movie theater, and I want to say, and I want to also apologize, they are just talking the whole time, and I am simultaneously that person and hate that person. So I am very sorry. They're just talking the whole fucking
the
movie.
whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're at the movies and like the group of girls they're all gaggling and like not paying attention to the movie. And so behind them, Luke Perry and David Arquette are like two drunk, like just out of high school, like people who are constantly inebriated. They're just there bumming movies. Like they definitely didn't pay for this. They're both in like their dusters and their hair is greasy. They're very hot.
They'd
Um,
be in fashion so hard right now.
Oh my God, yes. So they end up picking on Buffy and the group. The jocks come in, like the boyfriends. The only way I know the one guy with the big eyebrows is because he was in Halloween 4.
Really?
So I just called him Halloween 4 all throughout the movie.
That's fab.
And
His name is Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Oh, no,
Okay.
Andy. Her boyfriend is
Okay.
Jeffrey.
A basic white guy name.
Yes.
There's this guy with like a big old forehead and it is like thick. I don't know how to describe a thick forehead to you guys, but
Yes.
it's
Yes.
ginormous.
It's almost like elephantitis of just the head.
Yes.
You
And then
know?
he's ginormous eyebrows to boot. But so
He's hot.
yeah, he's even hotter as a vampire. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So
Um,
he leaves. So basically, then there we have the players are all outside, and this friend of theirs wearing the Letterman jacket ends up going to walk home, and he's walking through what looks like a shitty local neighborhood carnival, and there's a
Carney
carousel,
neighborhood.
and you hear giggling and weird vampire laughing, and this is where we see our first look at Paul Rubens. His wig has never been washed or moisturized in at least 1,500 years.
Paul Rubens attacks Halloween 4. That's like, it's kind of got that Salem's Lot feel because you don't
Yes.
see the attack.
Yep.
You're just led to believe that it happened.
We note that it's a full moon.
I didn't know.
No, we hadn't. Good job. Good job.
Okay, they do establish that it's a full, right before he walks through the like carnival area. They pan up and it's full moon.
Ooh.
So fun fact.
So then that scene ends, and then we switch to a television and a news report that says some guy, basically it says a man was found dead and he had a neck wound that resembled a really gross hickey. And I was just like, oh, this is fabulous.
So I think this is a good time for my Paul Rubens rant.
Yes.
So I don't know who needs to hear this, but Paul Rubens is a fucking predator. This movie came out a year after Paul Rubens was arrested for jerking off in an adult movie theater.
Uh-huh.
And then years later, in 2002, he was arrested with possession of child porn, and because he had the Rob Lowe sex tape.
What?
Oh shit.
Yes.
So wait, was that the child porn?
I believe, I don't know how old Rob Lowe was when his sex tape was released, but he was charged with child porn.
Okay.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, so like, and then, you know, Pee-wee had happened, and then there was like this later on, like recently, there was this resurgence of Pee-wee, and the entire time I was like, this makes me want to take the hottest shower known to man, because that is disgusting. The fact that this guy got redemption after all of this, and the fact that he got a job a year after getting arrested for public, you know, indecency.
That's gross.
Yes.
And also,
so
you know
fuck
what?
Paul Rubens.
Guys,
Fuck him.
you know, if people didn't know, jerk off in your home. It's treat jerking off like you treat the coronavirus. Do it
It
in
was
your
one of
house.
those things where, like, we didn't really think it needed to be said.
Right.
We just thought people had the sense enough.
Don't do that in public. I hate that I loved him in this movie.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say that I loved
sorry.
him. I loved his character.
I love
you know what I mean?
the vibe.
His character was phenomenal, and I hated it because, like, watching this movie today, you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like you can't watch Woody Allen anymore. You're
Right.
like, ugh, yeah, Annie Hall might be a good movie, but fuck it.
When we see this story about the news report, we are actually at Buffy's house. Buffy's mom is exactly what you anticipate. Her name is Candy, and it just like stands alone, which I don't know why. And her mom says kiss noise instead of kissing her.
Yes.
Yep.
And I
So
want to
ditzy.
hold Buffy so much.
Good for Buffy.
And,
You
and
know,
she calls the boyfriend the wrong name. She's like, bye, Bobby.
And he's like, she thinks my name is Bobby, and she's like, yeah, whatever. And they make out, and it's kind of hot for like that. 2
Yeah, it
seconds.
is. So, like, we get the idea that, like, Buffy's parents don't give a shit. They're not really present. Like, she's very privileged in that she has money and she's popular and all this shit, and she's white and blonde. But she doesn't have that parental unit. And so it might allude to her needing that attention elsewhere.
You know that they are the people that have all the toilet paper right now.
Yes.
You
Well,
know
I
what I'm
also
saying?
think this established that Buffy could be away from her family for a long time, and they wouldn't give a shit.
Exactly.
Like,
That's the only
The
way
whole
it
time
works.
I'm watching this, I was like, I would
What's the
never
first
be like, where the fuck is my kid? Like, why are you hanging out with this old man? What's going
That's
on,
like
honey?
all teen movies these days.
Right.
The only teen movie that ever made a parent that I loved was American Pie, because Eugene Levy is a saint.
Oh,
and his
but yeah,
eyebrows
that's
are the
real
caterpillars we all need. So Buffy goes to bed to dream that someone is chasing her. We're back in the Dark Ages. The wig person that worked on this film should be ashamed.
My hairdresser tried to convince me to get extensions the last time I was there, and thank God I was immediately like, no, thank you.
Wait, why?
Because I was like, you know, I really want to grow it out as long as possible, and he's like, well, why don't you just go like full extensions? And I was like, aren't those high maintenance? He's like, yeah. And I was like, no.
Then he would have
so
paid
high
all that money
maintenance.
to be in quarantine with them.
Oh my
Exactly.
God.
And here's another thing about this movie. So it was written by Joss Whedon. So he is now famous for being like a beta brand Bernie bro, where he's like
No.
kind of feminist, but not really feminist. So he was the original writer for this movie. So a lot of the corny, like kind of feminist things where it's really like, yes, you don't expect like a woman to be empowered and to fight back and to be the final girl, is all Joss Whedon's doing, and is his whole brand really. He's just going against the grain because it'll get him likes, it'll get him follows and stuff like that. So he also hated Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, I
Oh,
saw
nice.
that.
Yes.
He said he was really hard to work with.
Yes, when in all reality, Joss Whedon just didn't like that anyone would deviate from his writing.
Well, that's so obvious because the other fact that I found was that he literally, at one point, he left the set and just didn't come back because they took the script and they were basically like reinterpreting it on the screen, and he didn't fucking like it, like a bitch. So he just left.
So then he made Buffy the series, which was based on everything he thought was wrong with the movie, and he just redid it all. And then after there was already a Buffy comic strip or comic books, he made his own comic books to then correct what he thought the fans got wrong about Buffy.
What?
So like, this man is so controlling and constantly wants to control the narrative and not let anybody have fun with his writing.
Jesus.
Why share your art if you won't let people interpret it?
So when we're in the lair of Lothos, it looks like a poopy Pee-wee version of Blade.
It looks like it's lit with neon fluorescent lights on the ends, like orange ones.
And there's no lids on the coffin.
There's no lids, which I feel like is not like you're gonna get dusty. It's like 12 million candles, but if you really look at it, only like half of them are lit. And I think there's like an organ in the background casually. There's something.
A casual light ages organ, Lite.
Right.
So then we go to the scene at the school, and all the girls are together. Buffy, Hilary Swank, her other friends, like three other girls.
Buffy's wearing the best crop top sweater with those like big flowers over her tits.
Oh, she's so pretty. Emily, the way they talk about the environment, that they want to do a theme of the environment because of Sting.
And they said, well, we can do homeless, and they're like, oh, that's too gross.
And then
they're like, what about
bugs?
sickness? They're too depressing.
And then they said we have to get rid of the ozone layer. The one thought I had in this moment was, if the girls from The Craft met these girls, they would fucking eat them alive.
Oh yeah.
Hilary Swank's character, when they had been in the mall, Buffy wanted this beautiful yellow leather jacket.
Yes.
And they all were like, no, like I don't think it works for you.
It's so yesterday.
Yeah,
so
and
outdated.
then fucking Hilary
5
Swank
minutes
has
ago.
like make it so fake friendships, because maybe that's helping her character because she can see why she doesn't want to be with these people.
Well, and I think too, it just shows that like maybe she's different.
Yeah.
Like I think this is supposed to be the dumb 90s version of like, she is not like other girls, which is so annoying and such a like fucking patriarchal way to think. I just feel like it's like saying like other girls are stupid. Did you see that the government asked people to stop rim jobbing each other?
What?
No.
So there was this thing like from the CDC that went out, and there was a paragraph on it on how they've learned that it transmits. And it was like, obviously, after any sexual activities, you have to be very careful. They were like, please keep these things to a minimum. And they said, performing oral sex on the anus, and someone like screenshotted it and tweeted it. And it was like,
what?
Is the government really telling us to stop giving rim jobs? Someone's going to do a report on this one day.
Wait, where is that? I need to see it.
Jobs happening in the world.
Right? I didn't know either.
I want to slow clap all the people still giving risky rim jobs right now.
No,
don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't
The
do
government said
rims.
no, guys. Do just go on the front.
Only if you know them.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
Like social distance.
if you're quarantined with them, they're fair game.
so if you have Airbud fake dog paws, just put a stick on it, and you pull that far out as you can.
You have to put a stick on the arm.
Yeah, because that's how you reach with it. Because the
So
dog paw,
the arm on the stick.
the arm
I
on
would
the
assume
stick,
that you would just tape like 4 arms together.
you could tape for
That's what I've been picturing.
that. I just imagine then clapping with those.
This just reminds me of the quote from The Office where Pam's like, it's just cupcakes and strippers all the way down.
Can I ask a question? The next scene,
Yes.
are they in a coffee shop or a club?
It looks like it's a
Like
club.
Or like a bar, like a dive.
David Arquette and Luke Perry, Benny and Pike are in this club cafe with all the girls. They have no money, so they decide to split a hot dog. One gets the bun, one gets the
He
bread.
like throws down a fistful of change at the waitress, and she's like, "You
That
can
is
either get 2
disgusting.
coffees or 1 hot dog."
And I think that's Ricky Lake.
You're right,
So
it is.
Pike and Benny are kind of like making fun of them girls
Oh,
talking.
they're like losers. The girls
And-
though, they're like, I hate them.
And my favorite
Mhm.
line is she said, "Pike's not a name, it's a fish." And I actually
That's
think
exactly what I have written down.
I think that's actually fairly astute for her
Yeah.
to know that a pike is a
Okay,
fish.
Buffy.
Buffy is so much smarter than what
Yes.
she is
Yes.
given credit for. And
Mhm.
it just gives a little light to the fact that Buffy really isn't this person that she's showing everyone. She
Right.
Yes.
is a chameleon to her environment. She knows what she needs to do to be this person.
And she
Her
has a
sunshine-
slamming bod.
She
Mhm.
does.
The 90s terminology, I don't remember a lot. We were all very young in the 90s, so, but
I
just
believe they made a
watching-
lot of it up for this movie.
The 90s really picked up a lot from this movie.
Yes.
Pike and Benny leave and they go to some like disgusting dump and they're just there drinking and shit faced. And they talk about Buffy's tits and they say Yabos.
Her Yabos scoff. at
Yabos?
comedy.
I love
Yabos.
Yabos.
It is. Oh my god.
He says to Pike, she's not human. Because they're talking about like how her tits defy gravity.
Ugh.
And I just think that line is interesting because she's like a little
Not.
more than human.
For some reason, they're like on the side of the highway, which makes it so clear that this isn't in LA because the only way you can get to and from any place is the highway. So they're walking down one of those places and they're right along the guardrail. Pike, for some reason, he decides to lay down on the side of the road.
Yep.
Pee-wee attacks Benny, and then Pike gets picked up by Donald Sutherland. Thank goodness.
And I like how it's just so quick. He immediately, and he's like, okay, yo, let's go. And he takes him away.
Well, can we also talk about how fucking Donald Sutherland just watches this happen?
So I have a fun fact about this scene. Merrick was supposed to have an English accent and Donald Sutherland just like quit on it really early on.
Yep.
And this was one of the first scenes he filmed. So in this scene, Merrick has an English accent.
We go back to the high school and Buffy and her team are practicing their cheerleading dance. They dribble, shoot. Take that ball to the hoop. And I'm like,
Oh god.
kill
No
me.
wonder you're not getting paid for this.
I love
Now.
it when cheers are just directions.
Yes. They're
Win,
like,
go,
hand,
shoot.
ball.
Verbs.
Like that's not
Dog.
helpful.
Like, I like people, places, and
And
things.
things. When the girls leave, she is practicing her incredible skills at just cartwheels and watching her
And
stomach.
it's still a stunt double. Like,
Right. And watching her stomach is so flat. My belly button pines for the exposure to air that she is getting in her belly button. Okay. So I was just really bitter the whole time I watched that scene and rewound it.
I
was
think
very
belly
that's the
buttons
first-
everywhere are feeling bitter. This
My
is the
belly
best.
button was like, I would love to breathe air that isn't belly button lint.
I don't think I've ever heard the words "my belly button pines" in that order
Mhm.
before. Right before that, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna wait for Cassandra." They were like, "Have you seen her?" Because I loaned her Kimberly's
Oh yeah.
yellow leather jacket, and they're like, "Oh, but like whatever, she's probably around." So then she's doing her like round offs and cartwheels, which are her skills. And then Merrick is just like standing there playing with a slinky or some shit.
You can almost hear her singing the jingle in the background.
It's so bad.
What's the jingle?
It's like Slinky, Slinky, everybody, everywhere. Wait, no, that's cleanup.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's
what?
it.
You're the cutest person in the world.
It's like a lighter or something. He's like, he's fiddling with something. But the first time I watched this, I was like, is he fucking playing with a slinky right now? He has his trench coat on. He has his hat on. And he's like, hey, you need to come to this graveyard with me real quick. And she's like, why? It's your birthright? And she's
So-
like, okay.
No.
When he says birthright, I imagine that if she were Jewish, she'd be like, wait, there's no JCC around here, and I'm over the age for the birthright.
Right. How the hell
So
is this
I'm not
happening?
able to do this.
This is ridiculous. You can't bat mitzvah me here.
I can't get a bat mitzvah right now. The fact that Merrick tells Buffy that because she has a mole, it's the mark of a vampire
that's right.
killer.
She's like, I had that removed.
I would be a fucking vampire queen if moles made you a vampire killer.
Yeah,
Bitch,
same.
I am in love with my boob mole. Do you guys have a boob
yeah.
mole, right? I love my boob mole. It makes
I
me
have-
feel like Marilyn Monroe.
So he goes, you need to come to the cemetery with me because I'm the chosen one and there are vampires. And he's like, yeah, that's why. Literally, he just goes, yes, and like shrugs. And she's like, does
Mhm.
Elvis talk to you? Does he tell you things? I don't know why I'm doing a voice. Like, I'm also a woman.
I like it.
But
So he's like, you've been having dreams and such, and he's like describing all these different dreams she's been having. And then she says that she was a slave in
Yeah.
Virginia.
yeah.
Oh no!
And,
Oh no!
and I'm like, oh honey, no.
No!
Yeah.
You weren't. No!
Let's
Nope,
be glad
let's
that
not
that's
even-
not the one they flash back to.
Plantation, ma'am.
Ma'am, in the whole part of this scene where he's trying to tell her this, I imagine it pivoting quickly into the full-blown pornography where she becomes Buffy the Cockslayer. Just putting it out there. But she can't believe she's hunting vampires on a school night.
Also, imagine thinking you're getting money as your birthright and you end up getting a middle-aged British man.
Half British.
This is
Off and
not
on.
even an old British man who likes to chill in cemeteries, like randomly.
And
Honestly,
stop.
though, I think any three of us would love that.
We'd be into it, but what are the odds?
So when they go to the cemetery, she sits on the grave, all bummed that she has to be in the cemetery, and she says, "Do you have any gum?"
He also
And it's
just like
just like-
casually hands her a wooden stake and a crucifix, and she doesn't note it at all.
Nope.
Looking for your next gruesome gram or creepy card? Look no further than Ghost Girl Greetings. Ghost Girl Greetings are beautifully illustrated and feature tons of your favorite horror icons on their products, ranging from bookmarks to handmade cards for all occasions. You can shop online at ghostgirlgreetings.com and make sure to follow their account on Instagram at ghostgirlgreetings.
So these vampires, she's sitting on this grave of this guy, Robert Berman.
I was so horny for this scene. Merrick says they're waiting for the dead to rise. He explains that this person just died. So as they're talking, the first dead person rises up, and it's a vampire. Buffy's instincts kick in, and as she and Merrick are fighting the first vampire who pops up, a second one, a woman, comes up from the grave as well. So they are doing double duty, and somehow Buffy's tumbling skills come into play. And I would like
just tumbling to murder vampires.
But I would
That's
also
so
like to
great.
note, that I love these vampires. The
Yes.
style, the fact that they are very simple. You just put some fake teeth in, and they're
Yep.
gray, and it's
It's us
beautiful.
as children vampires. Like the
Basically.
amount of work we could do on our faces at like 8 is what these
Mhm.
people did. It's great.
They're Halloween vampires.
Yes. It's
Yes.
great.
So Buffy easily slays these vampires, and then it's just like, cool, whatever. Like,
Right,
done.
and
She doesn't
Slay.
We also at this point get that flash to Cassandra,
Yes.
who's walking to her car or something.
Yeah.
And she's wearing the yellow jacket that Buffy had loaned to her that was Hilary Swank's, that shouldn't have been Hilary Swank's,
No, bitch.
frankly.
And she hears like laughs. And then we transition over to Pike's place.
Oh,
And
I
so
love this.
is it common that if you happen to work at a place that you also just live there? Because he works at this garage and he just happens to live above the garage. So he's sleeping and he hears like knocking and shit on his window, opens his eyes to see Benny floating, his friend Benny,
Yeah.
and asking him, "Invite me in, Pike." And he obviously is like, "You're floating. Like, what?"
Right.
And so he says, "I'm hungry. I am hungry."
I also do love that they kept that stereotype of the vampire must be invited in.
I need to note that this scene is basically a shot-for-shot remake of the original Salem Slot scene, where Mark Petrie is visited by
Ooh.
by a boy at his window who's now
Yep.
a vampire.
I remember
yeah.
that. So Merrick tells Buffy after all this to go to school normally because otherwise the vampires are going to hunt her ass down. And he told her to skip cheerleading, but she's like, no, this is literally my whole spiel. Like, no way. She gets home from being with Merrick.
Yes.
And him telling her that, and then her mom comes home, and you think this is the first time you think her mom is upset she's late, but she's like, "What time is it?" And Buffy's like, "Oh, it's this time," and she's like, "Oh, sorry,
10.
my watch is broken. My watch is broken," and then she's like, "We gotta go, honey," and like they leave again.
So she's wearing this beautiful old like vintage nightgown, which seems to be a theme in all of the movies we've watched so far, but hers does not have sleeves. So she puts this bow into her hair, and this is like the freakiest scene of the entire movie. So she goes to lay into the bed, and there's a man sitting in her bed, and she just like lays on top of him and like cozies all in, and you're just like, wait, what the fuck is happening? And the camera pans over, and he hands her teddy bear, which is also creepy.
Yep.
And the camera pans over, and you're in the head vampire's lair that we've seen. And then she abruptly wakes up and finds this ribbon in her hair.
Best scene in the entire movie.
Hands
Because
down.
that was genuinely like, what the fuck is happening?
It was
is
scary.
this real? Yes. So, okay, that's what the original problem Joss Whedon had with this, where his original screenplay was much darker. There was not as many jokes. And so that's one of the only things that remained. And it makes sense that critics were like, wait, what is happening? What is this?
She goes to bed looking like a fucking model, and I have a hole ripped directly into the asshole of my leggings right now. Different strokes for different folks. Then at this point,
different holes for different souls.
Different holes for different. Oh, Blaine! T-shirt.
Blaine.
So we switch to Cassandra and Lefty and Lothos, and rather than her asking, "Why is everyone floating around me and where am I?" she's just kind of like, they're clearly gonna either turn her into a vampire or kill her.
Right.
And then the scene kind of abruptly goes away. And then D-Suz cue back to the school, and he comes to get Buffy from cheerleading
because she decided to go to cheerleading practice.
Yeah, she's like, fuck my role as a very important vampire killer to save my entire community. I need to dance.
But even more important than that, fucking Merrick shows up in the locker room.
This is rapey.
Creepy. How long has he been in there, man?
Still wearing the trench and
Still wearing the hat, and he fucking throws a knife at her face.
Yeah, he throws a knife at her face.
That's assault, brother.
And he's like, only the chosen one could have caught the knife that I just threw at your fucking face. And she says, all I just want to do is marry Christian Slater and die.
Yep.
And then she proceeds to punch Donald Sutherland in the face. Which
so hard.
He
gets pushed to the other side of the bench.
After this, we have a montage. We need to
talk
about this montage. She's training with Merrick, and she's doing a great job.
She's matching her scrunchies to her shirts. It's a good time in her life.
Also, they dress the vampire mannequin like an 18th century dandy.
Which I guess is what Rutger Hauer is.
I guess.
Makes sense.
I like to think that Merrick is actually like an antique doll collector.
Oh, yes!
He's like, my true passion is porcelain.
This is my next favorite scene in this movie is the following with Gary the administrator.
Oh my god.
Milton from Office Space.
Yes.
Oh, it's so great.
With a red stapler.
Because he sees that she's like late for school and shit.
She's like rocking up the stairs.
And he's like, I was a party guy. Tell me about it. It's drugs, isn't it? And he starts telling her about the one time he did acid.
Right.
And then she spits a tack directly onto a fly while he's telling her
out of her mouth.
Out of her mouth.
It's so hot.
It's amazing. So hot. And she's sleeping while he's talking to him. She's like,
yeah.
Pike is in the mechanic shop, and he's like, this place has gotten way too hairy. Where the hell am I going to find a mechanic to work for his little money? His boss is like, don't ever leave. And he's like, I just got to get the fuck out of here. I got to pack up my truck and I got to go. He's like, have you seen Benny lately? And he's like, you should stay away from Benny. Like, he's a dangerous dude. There's something going on in this town.
He says, what do I do if I see Benny? He said, run. He tells the only white person that works there that everything is going to hell. And not the 7 Hispanic guys working on all the cars outside. He's like, people are literally dying. Don't tell anybody. Just you, Whitey.
And I also think his van looks like a cheap version of the Mystery Mobile from Scooby-Doo. They have
Oh
the same
yes,
colors. It's the same kind of van.
I
So
love that. I
maybe that
want
was
one
like a
of
little
those.
nod.
Buffy then proceeds to go for a walk
In a
alone,
dark alley with like a beanie on.
and she's singing "Feelings" to
Yes.
herself.
And then this bitch ass vampire comes down with a teardrop tattoo.
She stakes this vampire that comes to her in the alley.
Mm-hmm.
She said she toaster caked him. The cramps that she gets are her acknowledging that a vampire is around.
Again, this was the thing that a lot of critics had issue with because they said it was like, oh, is a woman's only ability like her uterus? Like, is that
Yes, I
the
had the
only
biggest
strength that
problem
women
with
have?
this.
Really associate with Buffy when she in the next scene she says she wants to be a buyer because her and Merrick are having like a moment where he's like,
Yes.
I wanted to be a bootmaker. And she's like, well, I just want to be a buyer because it sounds cool. And I'm like, you're everyone I went to college with.
And I also love that Merrick is straight up like, did you have cramps? Like,
Ew!
oh,
I hate that shit.
He says he really just wants to go to work, and I'm like, me too, Merrick, me too. I do too.
same, baby.
We cue back to Pike, who is
Mhm.
driving out of town, and it's like they haven't really done much, like other than this dialogue of Pike saying like shit's getting out of hand to really show that obviously a lot of people are dying, and his van dies, which is a huge surprise. I would have never imagined such a scene could happen in a film like this.
We discover that Lefty, Paul Rubens, has been following him. And so he confronts Pike as he gets out of the car. And then, boom, Buffy and Merrick are there. And Buffy kicks Pee-wee's ass and rescues Pike. And then they instantly start crushing on each other. Instantly.
I will say that Pee-wee does say the best line in the whole movie. When his peons
Oh
are
my
trying
God,
to
yes.
kill Luke Perry, he says, "Kill him a lot,"
Kill
because
him
Luke
a
Perry
lot.
pulls his arm off.
Yeah, because he like stabs it through the top of the mystery machine.
Yep.
And he's like flapping his wing around. He grabs it and then like hits a tree or some shit.
Yep.
It just very easily, it seems, rips his arm off, which is like the fakest fucking
Almost
arm
like
I've
it
ever
was
seen.
a fake arm.
So now let's talk about how Lothos Ruckerhauer eats a fucking kitten.
I hate. He calls it a little snack. Hate it. They go to the lair. They're in the lair, and I'm taking this, and he has a little cat, and he says, "I need a little snack." And I immediately wrote, I was like, my friends are gonna be so mad.
Sorry, I sneezed.
Switch to the girl gang. We're back at the school. The way the girl gang talks about Cassandra dying is that they're
Right.
mostly sad because the leather jacket is gone. You know, finally, I think in this part of the movie, Buffy has become a bad bitch.
We noticed this in Buffy solely based on her wardrobe, because apparently her whole look has changed to be a little more laid back, a little more, dare I
Tomboy?
say, butch.
Yeah.
Because clearly you cannot be, yourself and also be a kick-ass female.
Right.
Or feminine.
Because the two don't, yeah, exactly. You
No.
can't be powerful and be feminine at the same time. So she has fully like resigned to lumberjack fashion.
Yes.
And that's supposed to indicate she's not like the other girls.
Mm-hmm. Even cheerleading. So this is the first time we've seen her cheerlead without her hair in a scrunchie. So then we just launch into the movie Teen Wolf.
Yep.
Like, that's what this scene is. This is just Teen Wolf. This vampire looks like a wolf, and he's being Teen Wolf.
Oh my God, when Halloween 4 turns into a vampire, my heart palpitates.
Yeah.
And also, I love how he just embraces the fact that he doesn't know how to talk over his teeth.
The coach says, together it'll all work out, and he says, stagger them with your politeness.
Yes.
So then
Oh, and
Buffy
Ben
obviously...
Affleck is also in this game.
Yes.
Right?
He
Oh, man.
somehow is just like casually the guy that just hands him the basketball.
So Buffy chases this Halloween 4 out of the fucking basketball court. He runs out. He grabs. There's apparently some motorcycle gang not far away from the high school.
Well, they were using the payphones.
He grabs the motorcycle and drives away. She grabs the motorcycle, and then the biker says, "Want to get some real power between your legs?" And then she takes the bike, and he says, "You're a dyke. I'm telling the world." And it's like,
And I was just like, fuck you.
I like how then somehow Pike is back. And he follows
They're
her.
like, oh right, we need a male protagonist in this movie.
Oh wait,
She can't do it alone.
He needs to always follow her because she can't possibly handle this on her fucking own with all these
And
fucking
then-
cartwheels.
She clearly starts getting cramps by like touching her kidney. She's like walking through and she's like grabbing her kidney and she's like,
Pike follows Buffy, who is following Halloween 4. So then we get to this scene where basically we have Benny, and we have Halloween 4, and we have Pike, and we have Buffy, and fucking Merrick shows up. Benny says something that I think was really cool. Pike says to him, "I thought you were my friend," because Benny's obviously trying to kill him. And he says, "Now I'm a god." And I'm like, you sound like every white man I've ever met. And then Pike pulls out a spike. Pike and a spike.
Pike and a
I like it.
Well, and Buffy's just pulling spikes out of fucking nowhere. Like she like throws down that lady vampire and stabs her through something she like pulled out of a bush.
Yep.
I mean, I guess a branch would be the word.
Well, or is this an analogy for the power of a vagina? Maybe.
The bush.
Out of the bush. Lothos says at this point, because like where they are, they're at like that carnival shit again, and he says the grossest. Every man is so gross in this movie. He says, "How have you ripened so fast?" And I wanted to actually take my own head off at that point.
Right.
Donald Sutherland gets fucking murdered. Now, is it Pee-wee or is it Lothos that does it?
Lothos, I believe.
And
yeah, because I'm like, if fucking Paul Rubens kills Donald Sutherland, I will riot.
This is the slowest death, and I love how in movie deaths, especially 90s movies deaths, they die while giving a full monologue that includes laughing and crying and smiling.
Exactly.
He says ashes to ashes as he like stabs him, which is like so cliche and dumb. And then he pulls out like a lace handkerchief and covers his mouth. I was like, what?
And he gives her the most Doobie Brothers advice. He says, "Listen to music." And I'm like, okay. Paul Rubens and Lothos are like, they're not ready yet. And I'm like, wait, so that's like if you're in a fight and you just look at the other person you're fighting with, you're like, I just don't think you're ready yet, so I'm just gonna leave right now.
I wish the fifth grader girls who picked on me when I was in third grade like said that, like, she's not ready. Like,
I
will fucking kill them. If you know who they are, I'll find them.
I get this whole weird Dumbledore vibe from this, where like toward the end, you're like, so is he playing both sides? Is he like Donald Sutherland?
But when he died, I was very sad, and she starts crying, and I will say I still wish that I looked that hot crying, because I look like a pile of shit.
So we need to talk about how they go to Merrick's house afterwards, and Buffy spends way too much time sniffing Merrick's fucking pillow.
Right?
Yeah, that's weird. No, stop. No, too much, girl.
Barely knew him, dude.
No.
Like what, maybe 4 months?
Maybe
like I
like
get
2
that
weeks.
we're supposed to see him. I get that we're supposed to see him as like the father figure, but I'm like, there was not enough character development for this.
No.
All of it was created like way too conspicuously and under very creepy circumstances. I don't buy it. And also, please get out of his house.
After she sniffs his fucking pillow like a creepo,
We cut to Hilary Swank and the other girl.
And the lines in this scene are just so banging.
Number one on my list is get out of my facial.
Get out of my facial.
Mondo Bizarro.
You've been acting like the thing from another tax bracket.
And then she said she was being way mental. So they're like clearly all upset with each other. Buffy rolls in with combat boots, tube socks, Bermuda shorts, and a flannel.
Yes.
And this is supposed to indicate that she is full on, like, super powerful, super feminist, like, doesn't give a fuck.
Get out of my facial is the name of my blog about the benefits of ejaculate as moisturizer. So I'm just putting it out there if anyone.
My facial
theme of the prom is the best ever. It's called Hug the World.
Hug the world. I'd like to give the world a hug. Tries to confide in her friends at this point about Merrick. Yeah. And she's like, I met this guy, and they were like, shit's been crazy. And they're like, is this because you've been hanging out with that homeless Pike? And she's just like, all right, I'm out. And she just like walks away with the basketball.
This is a scene where Pike is trying to convince Buffy to not stop killing vampires because she wants to go shopping. And Benny is in a photo booth and he overhears everything. So now he knows. You know, one would just assume that they knew before this happened now, and he had his photo taken in the photo booth with no reflection.
Oh, that was a good moment. Pike is talking to Buffy. She's like basically giving the lowdown about how she's the chosen one and I choose to be shopping. And he goes, well, you're the chosen guy. This is the first time Buffy is referred to as a guy. Feeds into the
Which is meant
narrative.
to validate her, honestly.
Yes. And then he goes, Benny was right. You're all the same. Like,
Oh,
fuck you, man.
Yeah, and fuck you, big ass forehead, Perry.
And he's like driving a motorcycle on the sidewalk, which is not legal. P.S.
No, and also rude because people are literally walking right there, and then he decides to do a fucking badass wheelie or like a circle and drive off because he's pissed.
Right. Like there's people that are dying, Kim.
In true 90s fashion, no one kills anyone until the penultimate school dance. Like nothing happens. They're like, we have to wait, because even Lothos and Pee-wee are like, we must wait until it is time and I can dance at school.
The Slayer's unmasked. Why do we have to wait? And he's like, because I want to go to the dance.
He's like, I want to put my jewelry on, and he looks like fucking Liberace, Lothos does.
He does.
We get our second montage of Pike and Buffy getting ready for the dance, and he's obviously just gonna like brush his hair, and he's gonna look so hot.
Oh, he shaves
Meanwhile,
his
Buffy...
soul patch.
Yeah.
He
shaves
soul
patch.
his
Fuck
patch.
my life.
And he's also like whittling down a broom handle.
Yep, because that's what
So
you do
cute.
before a dance, you know.
You get a glass of wine, you whittle your broom, you
whittle
shave
that
your soul
broom.
patch.
Yep.
A normal night in the 90s.
Also, why is Buffy literally wearing a David's bridal wedding dress?
I love it.
to
I
her
love it.
prom?
Oh my
I
god,
don't
I made the
understand.
note. She looks so fantastic.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
if we're considering all the circumstances, the 90s, the CrossFit, the just overactive
Yes.
father figure who made her
Yes.
feel like she was simply a meathead. Like, she looks amazing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she's wearing
Incredible.
combat boots to boot. Like, it's fantastic. I love that outfit so much.
She goes to the dance. Her hair being pulled up was really smart. She was thinking ahead. She was like, I'm gonna need to move. I'm gonna need to see. So I gotta put my hair up. Q2, she walks into the dance, and Jeffrey, her boyfriend, is there, and he apparently broke up with Buffy over the phone on her machine. So Pike gets there, and obviously Buffy's friends are like being fucking assholes to her because also let's talk about the fact that she brought an entire backpack full of spikes because she's smart. Pike arrives and he looks so handsome without a soul
like
patch.
a snack.
Like that cat, he is a little snack.
It's a good thing that she's wearing a wedding dress because she's got to husband that shit up.
Oh shit! They're dancing because obviously it's their wedding night, and he tells her you're not like other girls, and she's like, and I'm like, I don't need your fucking 2 cents, buddy.
But then
like,
she comes back and says, I know, and I was like, okay, good.
They make out for a very brief moment, and
Yes.
then obviously here comes the vampires.
Hilary Swank was like, should we invite all the senior class? And she was like, yeah, you have to. It's the senior dance. So then they're like all waiting outside to come in because they have to be invited in. And they're like, she's like, don't worry. They can't come in unless they're invited. And then fucking Hilary Swank is like, I invited them now. And
They're
Buffy's
seniors.
like, why? And she's like, because they're seniors. Duh. And like,
they just want Seth Green, one of them. They just want Buffy. Blaine just got hard. I can hear it.
Yes.
And so she has her spikes ready, and the sound effects of her doing cartwheels as she launches herself out to the vampires is the best.
beautiful.
It's so loud. It's
so
like
great.
Also, is that much faster than running?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, yeah,
How
clearly.
long? I mean, maybe it's like less like direct, like you could like you're moving, you're like not a clear target.
Yeah,
but
it's like
I don't know.
zigzagging when bullets are flying. You know?
Yeah,
The
zigzag.
bob and weave.
As she's running away from the vampires, Jenny and her ex-boyfriend are fucking in the car. So great.
And there's that kid that runs into the dance who's like obviously been bitten.
Yes.
And he falls to the floor and not one person goes to help him.
Nobody
This
gives
is-
a shit.
Nope.
No,
This is
and then the vampire version of the village people come to the door.
yes.
And they're just like,
If they had just gone into a Macho Man
Oh.
song, I would have like turned it off. I would have
Here for it.
rewinded it forever. Buffy, she finds Pee-wee. She's talking shit about the dead cat sitting on his head, aka the wig. The fight scene is very slow, and Pike and Benny are fighting simultaneously inside the cafeteria where the dance is. And he says, "Come on, man, we could live forever. We could start a band."
17-year-old shit.
And then when Pee-wee and Buffy are fighting, he says, Do you ever feel less than fresh? What is that from?
Is that like a deodorant commercial?
Is it a deodorant
It's
commercial?
either that or a Summer's Eve commercial.
Oh, or like a
yeah,
douche.
it's what Summer's Eve. It's Summer's Eve.
Yeah.
So he says, I can do anything. And she says, clap. Because he has one arm.
Yeah. Well, also, can we
So
talk about
great.
how Buffy had like a weird costume change that wasn't a costume change? She
Oh, yeah.
ripped off the bottom of her dress, like all the tulle, and then Pike gave her his leather jacket, which was obviously again him handing over a masculine element to her of like, oh, you have to fight.
But she looked so cool, though.
Oh, she looked fresh as
did.
hell.
I had just read an article about a sheep that had escaped from its land. It's like landowner, it's farmer dude, and its wool grew so much so that
I
when it
saw
was
that.
gone, the wolves that tried to attack it couldn't pierce the wool to kill it.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yes.
you know what? She actually might need that because, like, imagine if like you got a loose tooth flying about from a vampire.
Oh,
You know what I mean? You got to be careful. She is fighting with Pee-wee again with Lefty, and she stakes him, and he dies in about a 47-minute monologue of him moaning like a Jewish grandmother.
That's my favorite thing.
Yes.
Yeah, he
Ah,
completely improvised that entire thing.
Did he
Did he?
really?
Yeah.
He's like,
And you every time you think it's almost done, it's not.
Nope.
But
Nope. This is the second death that we never get. Lothos is in the fucking corner, doesn't give a shit that people
Playing a
that
fiddle.
Lefty's dying. He's playing a fucking fiddle violin. The song that he is playing is actually Schumann's Piano Quintet in E flat, Allegro
Damn.
Brillante. And then Lothos and Buffy start snuggling. What? Is she being hypnotized?
Yes.
Oh
Much
yeah, for
like
sure.
our Fright Night movie.
Yep. Cue back to Pike and Benny in the cafeteria, and Pike throws what I assume is holy water on Benny that he may have had.
Yeah.
And then he fries him, and I'm also like, wait, what exposed dangerous wires were at this prom that one could simply toss a bit of water on the wall and then fry someone to death?
Oh, I'm
Stephanie,
here for it.
It was
holy water.
the 80s. Like
That's true.
anything goes.
Everything is.
There's
Oh,
one more continuity question that I have here.
yes.
So
Okay.
Lothos takes Buffy and like turns her to Pee-wee's body and is like, "Isn't it delightful? Your first kill." This was not her first kill.
No.
She's killed a lot of vampires.
He's like the manager of the McDonald's where all the vampires works. How does he not know that he has missing employees? Lothos is about to give Buffy a fucking major hickey. And he says they're supposed to be together. And I'm thinking, like, why would the hunter and the daddy be joined forever? Is this some sort of like weird sub-dominant? It's weird.
Right, it's fucking
is.
weird.
It never gets fully explained, but I'm okay with that.
Lothos tries to hypnotize Buffy, and it doesn't work because
Mhm.
she's gotten so much stronger now. And then Buffy uses hairspray to light him on fire.
She says, I have a keen fashion sense, because he says, what are you going to do about it? This is when the principal, who is Gary, the administrator, he's like handing out attention slips to the dead kids.
Yep.
And I'm just like,
Which
this
is where I
so
was like, that's too much. That's too
Oh, I
much.
love it.
And Lothos, he comes back. She goes back to the cafeteria to
Mhm.
see the kids, the dead people getting detention. And Lothos comes in, and then
He
he's like,
brings,
I'm
like,
not
a
finished with you,
sword.
bitch.
Like a giant
Yeah,
fucking sword.
It's a samurai sword.
Yes.
Yeah, what the fuck?
There was absolutely no lead up. There was barely
Nope.
any fight time, and Buffy kills him.
Yep.
Yep, she with
Well,
a
and
chair
And it
leg.
was so anticlimactic.
With
You
a
also
chair,
have
and
to
then
remember that like Buffy has to go to school tomorrow. Like, what are her friends gonna say?
the kids, all that are alive, calmly leave the dance.
If you look in the background while she's fighting, like those kids look bored. They're like, oh,
Like,
Buffy,
yeah,
your
nobody-
shit again.
Pike and Buffy dance, and then this is funny to me. He's like, do you want to lead? She's like, no. And he's like, me neither. And I'm like, wait, how does one dance when nobody leads? Like, I
And then
don't
she
understand.
says, this is a good thing. And I'm like,
Right.
yes.
And they leave on Pike's motorcycle. So I do tend to wait until after the credits because I always hope that there's something after the credits, and there is in this movie. So after the credits, they as they're rolling the credits, they show what would be news interviews of the kids that are were at this dance. Funniest part is one of the kids say their eyes were glazed over and they had this really vicious look. I think they were young Republicans.
Yep.
And then the principal And then the principal says, the administrator Gary says, the kids learned valuable lessons about safety, except the dead ones.
Well, and then he talks about how he
Jesus.
saw this shit before a nom. I saw Platoon.
Oh my god! And then if you wait till the very, very end, you get Pee-wee dying for the third time. He's like, oh,
You also get Hilary Swank trying to become Miss America.
oh yeah. So, what do you guys think about this whole thing?
I think it's a
So
delight.
what are we?
What's
so what
the
are we
lit-
rating it out of? Yeah.
I don't even know. That's the problem with this fucking movie.
How many?
I don't even
How many
know.
broom handles?
How many broom handles that have been whittled into a steak?
Yes.
I'm gonna give it a solid 7. It's entertaining. The story, may be lacking. There may be a lot of misogyny rooted in it, but I enjoyed it. I think it's lasting, and I think it contributed a lot to horror comedies in our culture today.
What do you think, Steph?
I'm gonna give it a 6.5. Because when I watched this movie years ago, I think it held up better. Than the older I get, the more kitschy and silly I find it. But you know what? It's such a good product of its time.
I think I'm gonna give it a 7.
Okay.
I thought it was a delight. I had a good time watching it, and I think that it's about a bigger picture. I think it did a lot for comedic horror movies, and obviously it gave us Buffy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series is one of those things that's interesting because it permeates the horror genre. It's an icon,
Right.
And
right.
I think that obviously wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this film. So you got to give it credit for that. Your good influences. You have Heathers in there. You have Teen Wolf in there.
Yeah.
You have Pretty in Pink in there. You have a lot of different influences that are just a delight to see. I mean, it's just a good time.
Yeah, but I'm really glad we did this one.
Me too.
Yeah,
I had a good time.
It was a
I
lot
love
of fun.
it. I love it.
Everyone is struggling right now. Everyone do what works for you. This
Yes.
is not about productivity. This is not about being a better version of you. This is about surviving a rare and traumatizing period in our history. So do what you need to do. Make sure that you are taking care. There are people who want to hear from you, who are there for you, and who want to share in your experience. So you are not alone at all.
Love you.
We love you.
Yes. We love you guys.